think. Ah, wait, yeah. Okay, now everything should be fine. Yeah. Also, I didn't change the scene. That's sort of better for me. I have more time to do this. Also, I can close this. I can close this. I can. I haven't still made it. Probably for the editor to some degree, I guess. Ah, no. Anyway, good morning, good evening, good night, good welcome. Basically, welcome. Here we are. I don't know. We have not that much. Also, an incredibly heavy thing to talk about. Probably, I don't know. Something funny. I guess it's one of those. I finally found something that I wanted to talk about, and the issue is, it's one of those things that requires a lot of. I don't know the proper word exactly in terms of which term fits the best this description of something that we should always try to have. It's not a required thing, but rather a useful thing to always make sure that we possess, let's say. So yeah, today is going to be also how is this working? Let me see. Do you see that? This is not lying on. Yeah, it isn't lying. We're so fucking back. Also, good good evening, Spike. I hope you're fine. God is a Vtuber. He debuted in front of Mary for parasocial interactions and then re-debuted as Jesus. So true, Unfi. So based. Ah, I mean, what's what's a spike like? This is like literally spike. Wow, this we have it. We are so back. Literally spike. Anyway, no. There we go. Yeah. now we have spike. Welcome. I hope you're well. Let me. I don't know. Today, what was it? What was I? I think I was just starting to say, yeah, today is about life. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it is out. Sorry. It's just sort of complicated to define it properly. You love this? I also love this. There we go. Sorry. Today is about trying to properly, in some way, explain something. I guess I also want to try to explain it to myself. That's the issue. So that's why I guess we are here. I am kind of needing to revise a little bit of a handful of concepts, and I think it's a useful time to do so. I guess I don't know. First and foremost, as always, I'm not I guess a good clarification just in case we don't want to be talking about stuff. Probably I don't know. I wouldn't say heavy. I guess I don't know. Everything is heavy to some degree. Saying heavy is not really that much of a proper category. It's just it's a stuff that requires patience to be understood, and to some degree it also might be something that in itself needs to be aborded or discussed by somebody who has a lot more pro- professionalism behind them. But, anyways, we chose to do this because we want. So it's so to speak a known thing that maybe it's not going to be the best work. Also, welcome, Crespian. I hope you're well. So yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, I wouldn't say divagations. I have a pretty good idea about what I want to say, but the opinion is not final. I'm not a professional. Don't take me seriously. That's the point of today, guys. Don't take me seriously. Or the point of this part, don't take me seriously. It might be something serious. Assume that I'm crazy, I guess. It's better for everyone if in some cases we say that I'm crazy. So yeah, that. Anyway, also, how do you represent Crespian Sea? Two waves? Two waves to represent the sea? Probably something like that. Wow. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. Also, I should probably make the what's the whole mouse pin brush tinier. But let me okay. There we go. Now how this one? Yeah. Size 10, I guess. 10, 20, 10 should be fun. No. Paint? What the fuck? There, yeah, 10. Uh, this is, yeah, this is much better. Okay. Wait, I keep pressing. I don't know. I should ring out my own keyboard. I should know what I'm pressing. I'm using only one hand, so it's better for me if I do it in the way. Anyway, what are we going to be talking about? I only said a warning. I didn't say even what's the topic of today. Today we're going to be talking about. I don't even have a proper name. That's also why it's something related to how we tend to see things that are in some way in itself um, related to the action of things that we have to go through life. How do I write this? Can I write here? Yeah. I should probably zoom down. How do you zoom here? What's with this? You zoom? Yeah. With the plus, I love it. And how do I move around? Space? No, yeah. I have to press a space. I only have one hand. I can't do it. No. Wait. I have a. Ah, yeah. It doesn't work. Ah, man. This is going to be so hard. It's going to be so incredibly hard. How do I move around? Good question. I don't know. Um, maybe we use just one canvas. Maybe we do that. I guess I don't know. Also, I have to center again the image. I hate this. I hate this already. Let me make it tiny. Thank you. Let me make it tiny, and I think it's this key over here. Map display canvas size. What are you talking about? No. Focus on the image, brother. Center the image. How do I send view? Why are there so many options? I hate using software. I guess properties, time, offset, image split, convert, trim. It isn't. We're going to we're going to be more. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We 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 can work like this. Don't worry. Uh, can you read it? Let me see. Can you read if I write something like? Can you see that? Is that readable, understandable? Probably not. Let me see. Uh, Also, why do I have so much delay? Because I lag. Tomato. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Anyway, no, you can't because the text. We need tinier text. This is so over, man. I hate this idea already. But I don't know. Let me say it like this. I realized we have a lot of things that I didn't mention at all, that I didn't continue working on, that I should. So basically, that's why we're back to this format, I guess. Um, parts of life that we deal with. I don't know. I don't really have a proper title. I don't even know how to mention it. I mean, yeah, I guess it's something interesting because I think about it in a way in which this whole idea is complicated to describe in a sense in which it applies to many things in itself. The parts of life that we deal with is not something specific for a particular reason, I guess. And also, sorry, I I have been hearing a teacher and I heard how that guy was repeating himself like so much in certain things, certain mannerisms. Excuse me if I have them too much. I am going to try to do my best to not have that much. I guess I don't know. I have. I have it. 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 I have the click. I have. I have. Oh my god. We have a way to move around. I forgot how to do it, but here we are. We can move around. We are so comfy. Okay. Oh, hey. This is so much better now. Finally. Anyway. So in itself, let me uh, what is this idea about? Good question. This is about I don't know. I wouldn't say. Yeah, I haven't mostly reading psychology. I don't think it would be a wise thing to say to discuss it under the classification of psychology. I'm not somebody properly informed in all of that. I might be making way too many judgments about things that I might not possess enough knowledge about to be capable of truly articulating in a way in which it leads to any good conclusion. So, instead of that, one of the benefits of talking about philosophy is that it encompasses in itself way too many ideas. So, under that umbrella, we are going to say this is a philosophical idea. It really isn't. It's more of a thing. Philosophy. It's this thing of trying to trying to understand in general how we try to deal with our own. I wouldn't just say existence. It's more along the lines of how the person has to face different things in a different manner. It's I remember I have already talked about it. I don't fully remember which way of discussing it I used, but it was something along the lines of the person. Yeah, okay. I think I remember the explanation. It was the thing. The tiny things that we have to do. I remember that the visual representation that I used was the tiny things that we have to do throughout every single day that might lead to other benefits, and in the long run, how just one of these things isn't really that important because it's literally just one. But what matters is not having just one of these things because every single day we get to do many of them, but rather the accumulation of those things. How if every single day, let's say, how do you express that? How do you express multiplication? Do, do people understand that as multiplication? Probably not, right? And even then, it's like incredibly hard to read. Anyway, let me do it like equals arrow here. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Way too many dots. That's the visual representation of that thing. It's not that concept. I'm not talking specifically about that whole idea of oh yeah. how efforts in themselves lead to the accumulation of advancements and whatnot. It's true. I'm not saying that it isn't true, but I'm not truly focused on that. It's not out that things. Yeah, one tiny thing each day means 365 things in a year. Yeah. Also, why is it lying now? Is the whole PC lying? No, it isn't. Why is Krita and only Krita lying? What's the. Anyway, completely anyway. The point itself is, yeah, not about that. I remember what I wanted to say. I remember having talked about this one thing particularly, this way of, oh yeah, when once we get to do these things throughout the days and repeatedly, all of it is good and all of it brings us harmony and whatnot. Yeah, true. But it's not the point. I am not here to talk about, oh yeah, if you do many things each day, you're going to get many results throughout your whole existence. That is in itself a good statement, I guess, but that's not what we are going to be revising. It's something different. It's. I guess I should start with the visual representation, but let me try to delete this thing first. How do you can I delete stuff like this? Can I? I sort of can. I mean, sort of, sort of works. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. It fully works. I guess. That's work. So anyway, yeah, we're not going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing something else. Why the clarification? Because I think it's something. I guess let me say like this: it's pretty easy to find oneself believing that we might be mentioning something already talked about, not because it is something constantly being repeated, but rather because in itself, many of the topics that are related to, I guess, the way in which we live life seem to be semantically similar. It's like we have only so many ways of discussing things. As long as we stay in the realm of the simpler, yeah, ways of denominating stuff, we don't have that many wide options to describe stuff. It's a more limited lexicon doesn't allow for that many ways to address things. What we get to do at the very least in itself is we get to understand probably as many things as others who possess more concise ways of meaning to ideas, of referring to ideas, with just longer explanations in between. So yeah, uh, that serves to once again clarify this is thus the philosophical concept itself, the statement, the idea of value is how do we write it? Let me in just one sentence, it will be something along the lines of it's unrecognized yet always present. Is it a set? I don't really know if saying set is good enough. I don't want to use it. what did I just say? Ah, options offered to anyone, I guess. The modes of approachal, connection, resolution, I guess, yeah. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, let me throw basic first statement, basic statement. Can recognize yet always present set of options offered to anyone and the modes of resolution that we choose. I guess just tiny clarification or yeah, singular. Since singular existence, not. I will assume different ways in which we can also get to resolve things to solve in general things also has to deal with the other people that we get to be in contact with, but in reality the most important first aspect is not really what is out there in terms of, oh yeah, the human and the rest of society. Yeah, that is true. We live in societies and we have to be in constant with other people, but rather what matters, at least at this stage of observation, is only the notion itself of how we deal with things in general, and also what it means to deal with stuff. Not in a basic level of, oh yeah, we have things that we might be capable of talking about and such, but also the whole other level, the whole other layer of how we also get to approach and try to discuss and experience all of those things that are related to some degree to our own self, I guess. That's the first thing that has to be explained is what are the options that we're even talking about? What are the things, the parts of life that we deal with? Okay, what are those parts? What is the concept itself trying to talk about? What is the way in which we try to observe that? With a visual representation, also how I guess with words there are many ways in which you can say it, but with images, how to represent something. Let's say okay, I think the best representation itself is a basic object of any kind, like a circle of sorts, and how you have something, you have a circle. Let's say I don't know what is this? What's a melon? That's not the name. Watermelon. Yeah, you have a watermelon. You have a you have a watermelon that you want to eat. Assume that this is. Let me. You have your watermelon here. Okay. Yeah, and what you do with the watermelon is you have different ways of approaching the same thing. The object itself is the watermelon, and you are presented with the first option of what will you do with the watermelon? Will you do anything with it, or will you rather try in any way to get what is inside of it, even if it is, or even more, and also if it is going to be through directly just accessing what is inside without going through what is outside, or rather going from the outermost to the innermost layer. The different ways in which we get to observe all of that stuff is the ways in which we get to solve. In this case, the example is a watermelon. The first option is always being presented. Let me say, eats or not eat. Yeah, that's the first layer of judgment. You might be capable of doing something with any other thing, or completely abandoning it. At that level, it is already a choice that you are making. Either eating the object itself is something, or you're just going to be stuck at not eating it. Yeah, okay, now, furthermore, how is it that we are going to do both of those actions is what gets to matter to us. It's in a sense not because the action itself is what we are trying to look for, the best sort of action. We are not in this level of, I guess, within philosophy, yeah, there are discussions about morality and whatnot. So yeah, you can easily find the ideas relating to how, oh yeah, are you going to eat it? Are you going to eat all of the watermelon? Are you going to consume only what you need and give the rest to other people who are more in dire needs of all of that food and whatnot? Yeah, all of that stuff is true. We are not observing that at this level. We are only talking about the decisions that we take after we decide to do something or not with any other thing in itself. Why? The point itself is, I'm still building it, so give me a second. It's, yeah, I was going to say it. And once you choose to eat, you have, I guess, the wide array of tools to perform the same action. Why is drawing a knife so hard? Because I don't know how to draw them. Thank you. There you go. You have a knife. You have a fork. What else? You have a... that's a spoon, supposedly. You have a spoon. You can consume the thing with any way. The idea is you can approach the same issue in 1,000 different manners. The thing itself is we're always choosing something. It's the most basic, I guess, concept of always. Oh yeah, whenever you try to do something or not, you're always choosing things in your life. You're always making choices. You're subject of the way in which you decide to react to stuff. Yeah, it's always true in that sense. It's unavoidably a correct statement that we are always doing things in relation to the world that presents itself to us. So after that, what also matters is not just saying that, oh yeah, 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 you can do multiple things in multiple ways. That's still a basic idea. What matters is, I guess, yeah, let's say like this. You have the way in which you can already start to analyze it from once you have chosen to do the things itself. How do you decide to approach doing it? This whole discussion of here. How do you decide to do something might as well be called, I guess, second layer of choice, I guess. Everything is action, so chance, choice. Why did it say chance? Sleep, probably. Second layer of choice, yeah. That this thing is the second layer of choice. This is not the first thing that you do. This is the thing that you choose after having chosen to do something with the thing itself. In this case, with the watermelon, once you chose to consume it, you have to decide then how you're going to proceed with that action. But trying to trace back to this first the first layer here, let's say like this, the first layer is always to eat or not eat, to do or not to do, to be or not to be. That is the question. Sorry. So that's the first observation that we always get to have is the moment in which we make the first call to action or inaction is the moment in which we're already starting to choose to do something. Why are we particularly trying to observe this at all? Why is this? Once again, we have the first layer, second layer, probably unavoidably even more with the complications in which we live nowadays. There might be third, fourth layers and such, but that those do not particularly matter right now. We're only going to be talking about the. Let me do it like this. You barricade that stuff, and yeah, we're going to be talking about the first layer. First layer equals. And what does it equal? Does it equal something? No. The first layer is the moment in which we decide to do or not to engage or not to engage with things. At that moment, we're already making, once again, a choice. The part that does matter to us is not the choice itself that we take, but rather what it means to have or not have something. Because, let's say like this, within the first layer, you can always find that there are things, options that do not stop being available once you decide to reject them. Or the modes of rejection that we try to utilize do not always equal a change in the availability of the option itself. Unless you make it, I guess, yeah, in most cases, unless you can consciously or clearly recognize that the thing that you're trying to go for is not available anymore, you might as well assume that it lies as an open way, as an open gate, so to speak, or as an open path for you to take. That's why it's necessary to recognize at first that the way in which, yeah, let me go back to here. The it in itself constitutes a second layer of choice because you have to decide how you are going to eat the thing, but also not to eat, not to consume, not to do something. Also possesses, I don't think it's that crazy to say, a degree of how you are going to not approach the thing in itself, how you are going to not approach the existence or the issue of having now a watermelon in your hands. Are you going to I guess, are you going to gift it to somebody? Are you going to give it away? What are you going to do with the thing? Are you going to give it away? Are you going to throw it in the trash bin? Do you. What else? What else? Do you, I guess, I don't know. You can probably cook it. Maybe you don't want to consume it directly, so you can cook it, and after that, give it another sort of use. Maybe. The idea is you can still reject a thing in different manners also. That's still just another second layer of choice. But what matters is not in itself those those things that reside in the second layer, but rather the way in which we can recognize that the first one is still there. It's let's say like this to continue utilizing the example of the watermelon to try and make sense out of this area. Um, you have a watermelon, you can always, even if you chose to ignore it, you know that you have a certain limited amount of time to do something with your watermelon before it gets bad. So you have until then even the option to just ignore its existence until it is no more. I think that you can keep avoiding. this whole idea, I guess, it's an easier concept if you understand about this stuff related to procrastination and whatnot. Unavoidably, it is always going to be, oh yeah, are you going to consume the watermelon? Are you going to be making sure that it is tasty, that it is ripe, or whatnot? Maybe there is a time in which you want to consume it, that it is going to be better for you if you do so than if you were to consume it right away and whatnot. All of those things are true, but they are not in themselves the point. Also, the concept that we require or that we should be capable of observing the most is in itself how the watermelon exists and how, as long as we have time, the option of doing or not doing something with it is always open to us. So now, trying to put this into words will be in the first layer. Let's say it's not writing. What? What was happening, brother? Resides. What resides? The first. I mean, unavoidably, it is sort of repetitive to say in the first layer resides the first. Unavoidably, it is all going to be the first, I assume, but. Um, the first degree of choice. I think it's a proper thing to say. I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's a valid way of expressing it. Unavoidably, it is a choice that we make. The first layer is where we get to find the first degree of choice, and in, oh, you're right. Yeah, which we deal with, and in which we deal with the thing in itself. I guess, yeah, I have to accept. I get sort of angry when I have to hear about in philosophy when I am reading about it. I guess I don't know. I get to hear about people talking about the thing in itself and the object, the proper object and whatnot. Yeah, the issue is we are not really using it in the same way of referring of oh yeah the reality of the world. That is what we are talking about. It's just the anything that you get to do something with. That's the thing in itself. The thing that you get to intervene in. Even a situation might be a thing in itself because we get to play a role inside of that. Let's say, I don't know, having a conversation is in itself a thing that exists outside of any other thing because it allows you to interact or not in different manners. That's why it already becomes a thing. Once you can be part of that process or notion, I guess, so that it leads to any other thing. That's, I guess, that's why it matters. Also, good night, Crispian. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a good evening. Good night, sorry. And thank you. I will also, yeah, before I forget, I guess I should hydrate before it gets you later. Well, so, let me see. So, yeah, resides in the first layer resides the first degree of choice, and it is in which and in which we deal with the thing in itself. I guess we need more text. It is the layer in which we deal with the thing in itself. At first, I mean that's the issue of so much of a repetitive language. Unavoidably, it is all going to oh yeah, and the thing in itself and what happens first and what not. It's I hate semantics because of these things in which the issues do not become really objects of how you define them, but rather getting to understand what you're saying. Because the way in which you refer to them in itself is overly complicated. Sorry. Um, or the first time. Yeah, but we is we probably, yeah. Let's see, choose, interact, participate. Okay, I guess let's see. Yeah, we also get to see how we're accepted. Yeah, I'm sort of happy with that. Is it matters. Punto y coma. Semicolon. both, both initial modes of interaction. Subject time frame. During which we can act. Yeah. Okay. During which we can act. Let me reread everything so far. It shouldn't be that much. Yeah, it is a fucking lot actually. In the first layer resides the first degree of choice, and in which we deal with the thing in itself for the first time. This layer lets us choose how we will especially deal with the thing or how we will reject it or how we reject it. It matters due to its connection with time. Both initial modes of interaction are subjected to a time frame during which we can act on the thing. Yes, it's sort of obvious that during which we can act on the stuff. Yeah, it's only obvious. I wouldn't worry about it that much, but yeah. With this, we already have a basic level of explanation. Why are we trying to focus on this? Is the good question. Is the always valid question in these cases. Why are we trying to mention this at all? Is I think not such a random question, not such a distant or hard to answer question. It is the way in which we have the possibility of framing it is what's complicated. I guess it's it's something related. As I said before, it is. I heard about this not from philosophy, but rather from psychology. So I am also. I realized like midway explaining this thing, I should also try to my best to explain it through a different sense of more philosophical concepts than rather than just the psychological aspect. I know that, but I don't need to go that way if we are not here doing that. So sorry for all this meta clarification. It's also useful for myself, for me myself and my own way of organizing things. Yes. But it's all of this. It's just to see, to highlight at first that yeah, all of us have different choices to make, different things to interact with, different stuff that is related to how we deal with the rest of the world. It matters not because there is nothing that we get to interact with properly. We are not discussing the properness or unproperness of our actions. We're not in this level of observation of, oh, wow, yeah, we are doing things in the wrong way or not. What matters is that we are doing things or not. That's all that we're saying so far. And let's say it like this. I guess the easiest way unavoidably will be through Stirner, Max Stirner's egoism and all of that stuff. It's yeah, that's sort of the easiest direction to take. The easiest way to interpret all of this other stuff is sort of through that, through this guy who was. Do I remember his face? No, not really. It was something like an incredibly big neck. Yeah, and the lens. And there you go. We have Max Stirner here with us. Wow. Uh, sorry. It was his whole philosophical like purity boiled down to something is things that we do because we want to do them ourselves in terms of the relation that they have with our own ego and how we are self-motivated always, and we act in accordance with our own desires. We have different modes of justifying them and whatnot. We're not really going to utilize that. I think it's a useful idea, but it's not exactly what we should be focusing on. It's if we have to base it on something, what do you base it on to be capable of discussing it easily? Is it will? I guess. I guess it's the will to power. I understand it from the will to power and whatnot also. That should be a lot easier if you have heard about will and whatnot. Not yeah, it is in itself not the will to power in terms of that's a whole not display, a whole connection with an idea that is more complicated. Wills, different modes of will and the modes of acting that Nietzsche utilizes are also way too complicated for all of the things that we have to talk about. It's not through that, or yeah, it's maybe related to just the will in itself, the will to power, the will to just that, the will to harness things, the will to have stuff. I guess it's I don't know because the classification so far. Let me see. The classification on at this level, we are only talking about anything that is related to everything else. So once again, it's complicated to say exactly what falls under the category of things that we should be speaking about. Anything that we get to experience is to some degree or another a thing that we interact with. That's why it's also hard to say what falls under here. It's I don't know. Even economical decisions fall under that, and yeah, you can see in people like Nietzsche different ways of associating things. Like oh yeah, the will to money, or the will not just to power, to harness, the will to pleasure, to love, the will to knowledge, the will to know and to control, and all of those other types of will. Those things exist, yeah, but all of those are to some degree beyond or after the existence of any sort of thing that we interact with already. It's not what we should be utilizing to talk about this. It's what is the thing in itself? Not that I don't get it. What the thing in itself, yeah, is anything. But what is the thing that we are trying to point ourselves at? What is the concept that matters here? So far, it should be. It's everything. To some degree, I am willing to even say that all the idea should be contained within this representation. Thank you for not working mouse. Within this thing here, all of this should contain the, the explanation to some degree. But yeah, there are not enough mentions of the self so far because let's say it like this. Let me draw another thing. Line. Thank you. Let me. What are we drawing now to represent the self, the persona? Uh, Me. Me in the world. How do you represent an action? How do you. What is the symbol for an action? You know what? An arrow. Thing in itself. Yeah. Me, my action, the thing in itself, and what else? Another clock. Another wonderful clock. Dot dot dot. Uh, I can do this. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Amazing, Kino. I guess so far we're only saying I get to do things. Those are unavoidably actions that are affecting the things that exist in the world. And unavoidably, because things need to happen one after another, once I get to do my action, things get to produce consequences, and those consequences affect me. That's basic enough explanation. It's like, I don't know, that's basics. That's the way in which philosophy likes to borrow from other more serious sciences definitions. So yeah, every action has a reaction and whatnot. Yeah, that whole thing is true. But what we're trying to specifically focus on right now is not what are the consequences, what are the directions that things take, what are the things that get to happen and whatnot. It is rather, let's say like this, dividing all of this here. Okay. Me, the consequences that unavoidably once again affect me. I guess it should be obvious that we're talking about the same, or even if they are not from the thing in itself. It's what I was talking about before. The things are not what matters. Also, it's the consequences that we are trying to focus on, the consequences that affect us, and let's actually do this. Perception. Wow, my favorite word. You can perceive that consequences are going to happen. Perception. They might even occur. Yeah, so true. Let's say like this: the perception of the consequences before they even get to happen is the capacity of the human being. I guess it's a capacity of any rational animal that you get to imagine stuff and you get to play. That's whole stage of you can abstract yourself from the rest of the world so you can represent things before they actually get to happen. Therefore, you get to play around with ideas and see how things go in different directions and whatnot, and you get to make out plans before things get to happen. Why does all of this happen? Uh, let's say like this: one or one, two, three. Me, the action, yeah, action, the thing in itself, I guess. But wait, I can't fit perception though. I can fit it there. Perception, and this perception is unavoidably. All of this leads. Let's say like this. I didn't explain the third one actually. Um, Once I have myself, I have not only my action upon the thing, but also I have the perception that I can inflict both on the action and on the consequence, because the perception itself is just a characteristic that any human being gets to have, as long as they are capable of using their rationality, I guess. And the point is, once you get to understand stuff, in terms of once you get to perceive what you are doing, will happen out of what you are doing, you also get to change the course of your actions upon the thing in itself. The thing in itself doesn't change in any way, but rather the way in which you approach it is what changes. And thus, the consequences in themselves are also what change. Why all of this matters? I guess, yeah, that is sort of the whole explanation to some degree. I don't. In actuality, let's say, all of these things lead to consequences of different sorts, and that should be the whole axiom. If you want a philosophical idea, that's a whole axiom. Different different perceptions of different both consequences and actions are capable of altering the final consequence that anybody gets, not because the object on which the actions are taken changes, but rather the approach that the person who acts upon the object take are what end up being modified. That's what a basic idea gets to be. That's the whole basic statement. Why are we focusing on this? That's the good question. That's the necessary question to some degree, because what we're trying to say is not just, oh yeah, this thing exists, so to speak. This thing is something. This thing is something that we get to worry ourselves about, or something like that. No, it's rather the whole combination of, because there are things that we can try to focus on, because there are things that we can try to pay attention to, we can then, from a more, or yeah, I guess the statement itself once again is, anybody gets to change both their actions and consequences based on the perception that they get to have of the thing. The issue is to get to achieve such levels of perception so that we can reach proper understanding about what we are doing. I guess, yeah, to some degree, this will be the whole first explanation, or the whole first, yeah, the whole first layer is all of this, and not much more. Also, just in case, can you please give me like half a second? I think it shouldn't be something bad, but let me check just in case. If I open file, will it dox me? No, it doesn't. And if I open new, will it dox me? No, it doesn't either. We're so comfy. Okay. Sorry for getting paranoid, I guess. You learn to be paranoid once you live long enough. I guess I know. I wouldn't say so, but yeah. Here we are. This is the first layer. What matters is not that actually, but rather everything else besides that. Because let me once again formulate something that I already said, but we have the object. Objects. We have the action. We have the consequence. You can read that it says consequence there. Nobody fucking can, probably. Let me make it bigger, bro. Consequence. Wow. All of these things are connected within themselves, or between themselves by, or yeah, I assume that what matters is the self. Unavoidably, all of these are in correlation with the person, but all of these things can still have a sort of importance due to how all of it shapes the way in which we act in the world, so to speak, because both the action and the object require or lead to consequences, but at the same time, you get to understand that different actions lead to different consequences. It is not a relationship in which, oh yeah, only certain consequences will arise no matter what you do out of all the possible combinations of action and object. No, different actions with, I guess, different goals can impact the same object in different ways. That's the basic statement at its core, I assume. And this is in itself why we're. It's. Yeah, all of this is just basic statements. Still, we're not in any more profound level of examination. I think it's not something sufficient. We are not saying much. It's true that things work in this way, unavoidably different actions lead to different consequences and whatnot. That much is true, but it is still not sufficient to get to any conclusion. Not at least the ones that I was looking for. I said I had an idea. We still haven't reached the proper conclusion because let's say like this. Uh, oh, text. Different actions lead to different consequences. Even if they are both connected. One subject, one object. Also, I I think yeah. Just now I remember object. No. Both object and subject are valid words in this case. Let me yeah. A quick explanation of what I was thinking about. There is this whole idea on one of the very, I guess, anybody who watches that guy will instantly recognize who I am talking about. But yeah, there is an idea of, to some degree, object is two things at the same time. Any object is two things because it is the object that presents itself to me and also what I am being objected to or what I am objecting myself to. What is that thing which I confront, so to speak? That's why object gets to not just be the thing that exists, but also the thing that I confront. And both, in that sense, also, subject has the same meaning. It is something that I am being subjected to, and the thing that is subjected to me. It is the thing that gets to exist because it is in some sort of relationship with me, and also the thing that gets to be due to how I let it exist, being something dependent on my own self. That whole, once again, that whole stuff of both object and subject having two different meanings of sorts, or in that grammatical sense. That's, and I was going to say, yeah, subject would have been a better word than object, but no, luckily enough, both object and subject serve the same function in that sense. Things can be tied to other things in that sense, both in object and subject. So it's, I didn't even recognize that until I think literally right now. I don't know if I have thought about it before. Probably I have. Probably I have also forgotten about that conclusion. Sorry for that. But yeah, anyway. So one object we're talking about so far. Let me see. Different actions lead to different consequences even if they are both connected to one object. True. Why does taste matter at all? Because require desire, I guess. If the person understands which consequence they desire the most, I guess the important word would be they could, not that they should or they will, they could. Modify their actions in order, and yeah, I guess is the achievement of their goal that particular word that I want to utilize. No, not really, but anyway, it works. Sorry, I finished writing that I end read. I am very unprofessional, as you probably noticed. If the person understands which consequence they desire the most, they could modify their actions for the achievable of their goal. That's a basic idea. I guess, how do you picture that? I guess in a word, it should be something along these lines of Me? Possible consequences. The word that I utilized for this before was perception. Perception and awareness supposedly are the same thing, yeah? The perception. The perception of the thing, yeah, true. The possible consequences that lead to changes in actions, yeah, what? I guess you say it like this. Uh, is it a proper way to visualize it? I don't think so. I don't think you instantly understand what it means. Require time. I wanted to say, yeah, I'm trying to picture it in a way in which it is understandable. I think, I don't know, I think I might have chosen a not so easy thing to explain with pictures. Probably. I should have chosen something easier. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. We have all of this stuff, yeah. The basic part of the explanation is that the things that exist, the ways in which we interact with them and whatnot. And here we have the understandings of the possible consequences, the perception that we have about the possible consequences, alternative in which we end up taking our final actions or real actions, and this requires time. Yeah, requires time. I guess that's the final way in which you say that. Let me see. 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 You know what? I'm personally incredibly tired of fucking drawing. So, uh, even if, even if we're not fully finished in that sense with all of that stuff, let me transition into here. Thank you. That's I guess I have to save that for later, so I can't close it. But no more drawing for today. What a tiresome experience, I guess. Sorry. Let me can we change this image also? Let me can you choose a good image? This yeah. Okay. Yeah. And let's say it's doing okay, yeah, so far. I I guess I will rapidly explain what I was trying to say with all of that, or what was the point. I said it, I didn't reach the point, I didn't reach the conclusion. It's hard to reach just with explanations of this sort. Also, give me a second. Let me unplug the mic. I don't the mic, the mouse. I don't need that now that I am here on this other screen. Okay, here we are. Ah, finally, no more drawing. Anyways, sorry. I was trying to say, what happened there? What the fuck doing? Why is the title changed? Sorry, I didn't expect that. I forgot I have the right part chosen, so I unavoidably now you have learned I mute the mic with this key. and also admit that with that thinking, wow, so go to anyway. Um, the point was, the conclusion that I was trying to reach was, yeah, different actions that we take lead to different consequences. The point is, to some degree, anybody is capable as long as we observe the different consequences that we might desire the most, the different things that we are capable of finding as our objects of desire in themselves. The way in which we can take as many actions in order to reach them is the way in which we can then understand and properly organize ourselves in order to work in our own favor, so to speak. Why is this such a necessary thing to talk about? Because something funny that I was observing in reality is, in many cases, what happens is many people possess different things that they seem to want to solve, or different situations that they seem to find in life, that they seem to deal with at all levels, let's say, and all of that is good to some degree, because unavoidably they are doing something that, what I explained before, of any kind of thing, any kind of decision is already a sort of second layer decision in which you already chose to either interact or disengage with things. And even then, the way in which you decide to not engage in other things is also part of a second layer. So, what matters is not just saying, okay, you can have better consequences, but rather realizing how, personally speaking, going beyond the level of basic statements, from a personal perspective, what happens is, in many cases, I might not be capable of recognizing exactly which sort of consequences I am trying to go for, or I would want the most to have happen around me, but rather I can only be capable of explaining them as long as I can, before that, try to sit myself down and understand any sort of consequence that I might experience. Until that happens, I can only get consequences that might not lead to the most pleasurable outcome, so to speak. That will not give me the most pleasure. Let's say it in another way. The same idea in another way is that might not give me as much pleasure as I might require. But why does that matter in itself is because something funny that I see in the world is, in many cases, that doesn't happen out of nowhere, and that doesn't lead to nothing else. That the moment in which anybody gets to realize which things we want and how we can actually take actions in order to reach them is the moment in which the door for observation opens in many other ways. Because what happens is, once you recognize that you can take actions and that lead to consequences that benefit you, you start to see how many other things are still in that same first realm of things that are still only being not interacted with yet, but which are still available to you to do something with. This, let's say, procrastination, that wonderful word that we were capable of inventing and utilizing so fluently since a while ago, that reflects on the nature of how we get sometimes to not decide on the stuff and whatnot. Yeah, that thing might be completely true. That thing might be completely a certain issue that we get to have, but also it is not just procrastination. It's that in some cases, if we don't even understand which sort of consequence we desire the most, and which consequences also we want to avoid the most from the things, from the objects that we are being confronted with throughout life, we do not get to take the proper actions that lead to those good enough consequences. So, what becomes a sort of necessity on any human being is to properly observe which things we are interested in getting, so that we can then finally be capable of acting on the world, on everything that we can take a part of our participation in any of those things. We can try to act as much as we can in order to get, once again, those best of consequences that will give us the most satisfaction, even if not always it happens that we get to have that pleasure. In the cases in which we do get the pleasure of experiencing something fulfilling enough, in those cases it will unavoidably happen then that, yeah, we will all of us find it a reality that there are not just those things which we benefit from the most that we get to deal with, but also all of those other things that we before conceived as annoyances in our life and unavoidable bad things that we just have to deal with in terms of accept as bad things and nothing else. There is a whole set of a category of things that exist in reality of, oh yeah, these unavoidable pains of life. Even then, different ways in which we interact with the world is being informed by the way in which we perceive it, so to speak. If in some if in so many cases it happens that what we see is not actually what is, but rather how we interpret the things and how we can also interpret what will be the outcome of what we are seeing and what we are dealing with, what happens is, in an even funnier sense, if we can even alter the way in which we interact with those unavoidable parts of our own life, we get to have even better consequences than before. It's the idea. That's why I was trying to go from the philosophical explanation. The idea is quite basic in the sense of, oh yeah, yeah, we get to have all of this stuff that basically talks about how we just get to do things and get to get better outcomes out of whatever we want. We just need to sit down and observe them. But rather, it is also there are many other parts of life that also are unavoidable, that are always there, that we always need to take into account, but that we can revisit and signify so that we can deal with them in an even better sense. And the issue is being capable of doing so. Not only I say it requires time, but unavoidably it also implies that you are going to have the will to be capable of recognizing such things, and you're going to be capable of, from a personal perspective, unavoidably, if you are talking about any kind of thing that you are going through, that you are being capable of observing, and that you are being capable of dealing with, you are thus implying that you have any sort of interest in getting any sort of outcome from the thing itself. But actually, if you do not possess any sort of interest in getting any sort of outcome from anything that you're interacting with, you might not be capable of taking any sort of action that will lead to the consequences that could benefit you the most. It means then that in many of the occasions of the daily life of any human being, what might happen is that in many cases, we might not be realizing that what we are choosing to do or not to do impacts the consequences that we get throughout the rest of our day. So I guess the proper way to say it is a call to more perception, more awareness about the rest of the world and how our own existence interferes with everything else. And even in some cases, if let's say like this, I don't do anything, therefore the consequence is unavoidably that one which happens only if I do not interfere, and it supposedly doesn't affect me, even if that outcome of the object that gets to do something without any of my inputs does not directly affect me. As long as the consequence might be capable of negatively making me have any other sort of impression upon the world, I can recognize something funny. I can I can perceive that maybe in some cases choosing to not do something is not the wisest choice, because actually, even if the consequence does not directly go addressed to me, it still has an impact on me. So I should at least try to be a partaker in some way so that I can be as less damaged as possible by those things that unavoidably have consequences, no matter what I decided to do. Like for example, I don't know, what I was saying before, the watermelon. The watermelon will go bad. So even if I decide to not consume it, it will go bad. Thus, I can let it just go bad, not consume it at all, let it be, not have any sort of interaction with it. Yeah, but I can also do something before it goes bad, because the moment in which it goes bad, it might become another sort of issue that I have also to deal with once it reaches that point, and it evolves into something else entirely. It doesn't just exist as a watermelon, but rather it exists as a colony of, I don't know, ants or flies in my house. That's why it's useful to be capable of recognizing those things which we are capable of dealing with, but we are not so capable of yet actually interacting with because we decided to not recognize. That's why I used that word perception, because in many cases we decide to not perceive things that are already there. We decide to turn a blind eye, as I would say, to things that always lead to consequences. In a certain way, the implication, what I was even saying, is anything leads to consequences of sorts. What we can do is realize which consequences they will lead to from all the different decisions that we take, or which are the most likely consequences that will happen out of the things that we do, and which things can we actually try to also do in order to get the best consequences for us in a certain sense. Does that make any sense? I think that's the whole explanation now. I don't know. I kind of finished. I think yeah. I have said all of that probably. I don't know if I'm missing anything. The issue is if you take it into the realm of, as I was saying before, philosophy, it becomes overly complicated to follow in itself the structure of the idea in some cases. So it's hard to know if I got to say all the things that I wanted to or not. Uh, yeah, let me drink some water. Let's say like this. Let's say like this. Something funny. I think this is what I forgot. Something funny that happens, at least nowadays, is suddenly that we have lost the capacity to recognize the consequences that happen to us as a direct consequence themselves of our own actions. So we believe that in many cases things that happen to us not because of anything that we could have had any effect on, but rather because things are outside of our control. You start to, and that's why I was talking about psychology being the main inspiration of this whole discussion and whatnot, because this comes from the way in which you perceive yourself and whatnot. In psychology, it is utilized within the field of, oh yeah, how different consequences might alter your mood, and how, to some degree, if you give up agency on your own life, you might feel like you're not so much of a participant in your own existence, but rather you're just a subject who has to see their own life pass by, sort of, as they are forced to do things because others decide to tell them what to do and whatnot. In a certain sense, the idea is not that it isn't true, but rather that sadly, one of the realizations of this is we take choices in relation with how things get to be, even when we are not capable of realizing that. In most, if not all cases, the consequences that we get to experience are a direct consequence themselves of what we did from our end. I guess, let's add at this one particular rule, I guess, just in case, unavoidably, as long as you're an adult, many of those consequences are direct products of your actions and not consequences because of other people and whatnot. That's what I was trying to talk about before. Yeah, when I started, I said, this is more complicated. If you take it on the realm of psychology, you have to take into consideration everything else. Sometimes consequences do not only come because of you, but also come because of other people, because of the grown-ups, because of of your significant others, because of your family, because of your friends, because of the social groups, because of the society itself, of the community, blah 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 blah. All of that is true, but that is not what we actually need to focus on. What we are just trying to be at is that first level of things that get to happen or not, and how we, in some cases, have the possibility of taking action, even if we decided before that we didn't. Why? Because the final consequence that could benefit us the most is not always the one that lies within the inaction that we decided. And if we are capable of noticing early enough that there is still a possibility of changing the course of the consequence that we will get out of the thing that we want to interact with, or that we are already in an interaction with, it is possible to have a more fulfilling existence as more things get to go our way, not because we need everything to go our way, but rather because we are being given the possibility of doing so. Therefore, that I guess that part of satisfaction that is in correlation with, oh yeah, unavoidably any person that gets to do what they want gets to be a lot happier than those who don't get to do anything that they desire at all. That same thing applies here. If you get to pay attention to what you want, if you get to pay attention to what will happen out of the things that you already have going on in your life and so on and so forth, things get to go a lot better. The issue is getting there at all. But yeah, I think that's all. I don't know. I am probably forgetting something at this point. I won't say I'm not forgetting anything. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something. The issue is I don't have the capacity to say what. I don't. I I let me be honest. I remembered I used to write down stuff and I kind of forgot about it for a long while. So now we're slowly trying to go back there. Probably this one wasn't the best idea to write down at all. Also sort of okay, because at the very least we get to have a more easily followable visualization of the idea, even if it is just an initial draft. And many of the things that I talked about here, I guess, in the last 5-10 minutes, are a lot more complex than what gets to be in all of those images. So sorry for that, but yeah, it's for the sake of that, for the sake of getting to make a better argument, that we can do that, even if in some cases it takes a lot more energy or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I am trying to actually see if I am forgetting anything. I think it's complicated because even if I am forgetting something, I can't actually remember what. It's yeah, I'm not at that level of consciousness still in which I can instantly recognize what's out of my hands, so to speak. So yeah, excuse me in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. No, yeah, yeah. I think that's actually it. I think so. Let me. Yeah, I'm convinced. I think I think that's it. That's all that I wanted to say. Also, I don't know. Not that much more to add, actually. Yeah. Anyway, I guess have a good night, have a good evening, have a good rest. Thank you for being here. Yeah, enough that other stuff as always. Please take care, be happy, uh, cultivate yourself, read something, drink water, rest. All of those things. Be responsible. Do, and what's not. But yeah, not much more to add. I think so. Not much more to add. It's all for today, at least. Yeah, yeah. It's all for today. See you next time with what? I think Mahabharata tomorrow, probably. So yeah. Anyway, good night.